Hello, and welcome to the Mindset Nebula, where we discuss all things SAP development, design, and this week, TechEd preview. SAP TechEd is coming up. We have some illustrious guests with us. Our first time joining the Mindset Nebula, we have Shinjin.
Hello.
Hey, Shinjin, welcome.
Thank you.
We've got Naveen.
Hi, Naveen here.
Naveen, and our standby host, always on the podcast, Yelena. Hey, Yelena.
Hi, everyone.
Right. So I think we can kind of just jump in. We've got a bunch of different topics to discuss. This should be coming out like the first day of TechEd or just before TechEd. And so we want to kind of preview TechEd a little bit, what we're looking forward to. And then we'll follow it up after TechEd with our thoughts. Hopefully we'll have most of the same group together, but we always have people come in and out of the podcast. So let's get started. First line of business, what is different about this year's TechEd? From last year, not much, but it is all virtual this year, right?
Yeah, it's still the same deal as last year. That's kind of one of my complaints about this year's TechEd. I wanted there to be more of a delta content, something that we have not seen or heard last year, but it looks like there might be quite a bit of repetition from last year with just addition of what's new at the end of the session. So I'm really curating my session list to make sure that there isn't a lot of overlap with what they've already found last year. Yeah,
so like a lot of the same focus on BTP services and different runtimes and that kind of thing.
Some of the sessions I would expect might be almost the same, like ABAP roadmap, for example. Well, I mean,
it's a roadmap session.
Yeah,
I mean, yeah.
The same road somewhere.
Yeah, there's always a road. I actually like those roadmap sessions a lot of the time, but I like them kind of after the fact. I don't think that they're a very good use of time at TechEd, but they're great to just kind of like watch, some evening or something to just sort of see, all right, so what's the overview here, without necessarily going and looking at like the 80-page PDF roadmap presentation. Cool. I don't know. So Shinjin, what do you think? You've been at a few TechEds, haven't you?
Not as much as I would have liked to. It's been a few years since I went last. Have been a part of ASOGs more than TechEds actually. So I was looking at the sessions. I have last year again. I have not joined any session, so things are new to me. And I can see, of course, there's a lot of BTP content out there, and I am really looking forward to some of those really, because my current work is kind of related to HANA, not BTP related, but like, the cloud programming model and everything, they kind of are taking place in the context of BTP, and it's still very relevant. And I'm looking forward to certain BTP sessions, and I have shortlisted a few. I'm waitlisted on a few, so let's see how it goes.
Cool, awesome. And Naveen, you're a TechEd pro, right?
Connoisseur.
I've been to many of these.
I've seen you at a few of them.
Absolutely. I have a few stories with TechEd, right? Like, I used to work for SAP Labs back in the day, and SAP TechEd was like the big thing for SAP developers. You want to be there, right? Like it's such a passionate thing. And back in the day, not everyone can go to those things. Like your manager has to write a business case, approval, blah, 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 even within SAP. So I had to fight all the way till my VP level to get access into it. So I still remember what he said was, if you want to go for it, you better present at it. So I had to write an topic, be selected as a presenter, and that's how I had to make my way into my first ever TechEd in SAP Bangalore. And believe me or not, the first time I was there, gigantic campus, right? Like I was just sitting in one corner, and how can I just sync up all this energy in 2 days? It's not possible. You just cannot extract every single part of TechEd, right? So things have changed. it was 2008 and 2021. Things have changed drastically. To be very honest, I'm not a big fan of virtual TechEd. I like going, meeting people. I think that's the best part of TechEd. And not only that, right? Like the whole preparation for TechEd, clearing up your schedules, going to Vegas, talking to people, lining up with customer events. Then we used to do like a design meetup in the evenings and customer meetups. I also had some fun with the TechEd mobile app, like just figuring out what to attend, taking some notes, taking some pictures of contacts. The whole thing had energy, right? Like I think that energy is missing. Content is there, a lot of great topics, but that energy somehow is, it cannot be replaced.
It was definitely kind of missing last year, I think. The one place where there was where there was a little bit of that was in the channel 1, which is kind of like a group chat, and there's a I don't know how to describe it, Yelena, but it's sort of like there's a primary presentation going on. And so, if people want that kind of serendipitous community engagement type of thing, that might be the place to look. But I loved like the in-person tech ed, just kind of walking around in the halls and running into people. That was awesome.
I mean, the even more fun part was you only get 2 hands-on workshops. So you have to choose from like 150 workshops. And then I'm kind of a pusher, right? So I used to choose my top 2, but I also wanted to go to one more. So I used to show up in the waiting line to be the first person. The whole thing was so much fun. I mean, the more I think about it, randomly people will come in and say, "Hey, how are you doing? We met last year. How is it coming? What problems are you solving?" Oh my God, that whole energy is different.
So we didn't warn you about this, Naveen, but Yelena and I have to do a paraphernalia display for the video version of this podcast because especially Yelena brought some stuff with her.
We have.
Can you break out the sunglasses, Yelena?
Yeah, we have the whole like paraphernalia showdown. So this will be very confusing for those listening to the podcast. But Ethan and I are veteran SAP TechEd attendees. So as everyone who goes to TechEd, we accumulated a lot of paraphernalia or swag from TechEd. So these are my mentor sunglasses that were given to the mentors one year. And I can't see anything in them. I need my regular ones.
I'm wearing my mentor jacket, and I've got my SAP UI5 Qi charger from moderating at the UI5 Con this year. So that was fun.
And I'm trying to recreate my real life TechEd experience with wearing all 3 badges from the past event from the TechEd.
That was one thing I could do without, is walking around with a badge.
Yeah, one of them is very kind of dear to me. It's let me see. This is the very first one from my very first TechEd. I'm kind of a big deal. It was my first year at TechEd, also first year as a mentor. So It's a very nice memento. And I also have those water bottles. They are very nice.
Oh, yeah. I think
they were given different ones at every TechEd. They showing just one, but they have much more every time you went. And they're actually very, very helpful, very good quality. I have, my kid loses lots of them.
Exactly.
So he borrowed one of mine.
It's the primary reason to go to conferences.
Exactly.
To get the water bottles.
Get your water bottles. That's it. You're done. Back and go home. Yep.
So, I mean, I think we're all pretty much ready to go to TechEd here. It starts on Tuesday, so in 3 business days. Tell me about your feelings about the platform, because it's a virtual TechEd. It's going to be on the TechEd website, which is, probably easiest just to Google SAP TechEd. Rather than trying to go to the URL for the website, which is one of my sort of complaints about it. But how was it? What was the registration process like? How's the session builder?
For me, registration was simple because I already had my SAP ID, not the universal one, but just regular PID, and it just transformed all the information from it. Session catalog, I'm still in the process of building up my agenda, but this tool has been eternally bad, I think. It just somehow it gets differently bad every year, I feel. I think SAP Mobile apps that Naveen mentioned before, that was actually very helpful, but it only was active during the live events. So you would go in and it was much simpler to find sessions there and to add them and build your agenda that way. What I've noticed from the virtual event difference from the past ones is there is no longer search by speaker, which to me personally is a bit of a negative, because to me, knowing speakers, it's a great advantage. I knew there are several speakers that I would always seek out, and some of them are prominent SAP employees, some of them are community members or SAP mentors. It definitely allowed me to build my agenda much more efficiently before, because I would go and I would start with those speakers that I really am interested in. It's like your seal of quality, essentially.
Yeah.
You know those people from community, from their book writing, blogs, anything, and you really want to meet them and hear what they have. The event platform itself, when the sessions were ran, there were some hiccups last year when I think comments were disabled in some sessions, so that basically turned them into webinar recording. And hopefully SAP can resolve this issue and make it more efficient so that attendees have at least some resemblance of some kind of networking and live event vibes that we used to get.
Cool. Yeah, I pretty much agree with all of that. I thought the registration process was pretty smooth. It was, as always, could do with a few less required questions on the form, but
industries.
But it wasn't too bad.
The industries was the one which threw me off, because I mean, as a consulting firm, we work with like many industries, right? Like, where should I choose my love? I cannot just choose my love to one industry. So
I work at IBM before. What industry is IBM in? I have no idea.
Yeah. I mean, you put in
all of the above option
exactly,
along with the others option. Yeah.
It's a sort of a marketing thing, right? So but the question is, like, do you put in the industry that you work in, or do you put in the industry that you want information about? So
I mean, that's the tricky part, because once you sell, based on what you select, the thing I like about this year is the color patterns are much better in the website, to be honest. They're doing something like a recommended session, like it shows a little bit of green label on the top. So that is basically how you set up your profile. Now, that is where, if I'm interested in multiple things as a buyer or as an SAP partner, it's not that effective, because it's only showing me context of one industry, but not all the industries I'm interested. So I like the AI part of it, but I'm not able to fully leverage the AI part of it. So that's where it's like hit and a miss.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So the meat of what we're going to talk about, I think, is our session recommendations and which ones I think are key for us and we're really looking forward to. So I think we should just dive into that. What looks good? If you want to be nasty, what looks terrible? And let's go. I don't know, who wants to go first?
I could do that. Mine is very simple. BTP. So I was looking at the dev related topics, and BTP ones look pretty good. So many of those are on waitlist right now. So there is one about DevOps with BTP, and I found that to be really interesting, and I want to understand how DevOps works in the context of BTP. We have been using a lot of DevOps in our current project, marrying Azure with HANA, and want to understand how it works within the BTP ecosystem altogether. So I'm really looking forward to that one. And then I also recently learned about the SAP Graph, and I was really looking, it's kind of intriguing, because again, I'm working on APIs and building APIs, and I want to understand how all that is integrated at an enterprise level through SAP Graph. So I would definitely join those sessions, and I would recommend them as well.
Great. Yeah, SAP Graph's kind of been a work in progress for a couple of years now, so it'll be fun to see what the latest is.
Yeah.
Yelena, do you want to share a session to kick us off?
Yeah, sure. As a developer, I typically start with searching for developer sessions. And this year, what I did, there are, as you know, tracks and subtracks in TechEd. Typically, main tracks were in the previous events, it was development, UX or UI, analytics, and some kind of basis stuff. This year, it's very similar, but I see that, for example, there is still analytics track, still development track, but the rest of it, I feel it's different and it's separated to DAT, which seems to be data in general, IIS, which I'm not really sure what it exactly is. It seems to be a very eclectic mix of things, maybe integration platform or something like that. ISP, and then INT. Well, ISP, I don't really, to be honest, understand it either. INT, it's intelligent enterprise. So RPA and AI, ML, that type of content you will find in those tracks. I think the challenges it presents is what I found the session that would be interesting to me as a developer. It does not necessarily belong to dev track because it looks like there isn't session needs to be assigned to one track only. I found it's not really a thing to have session in more than one track, and that just makes discovery slightly challenging. But as far as ABAP or more larger SAP development goes, there is ABAP strategy session, which I think is always good to attend. It's only half an hour. It's DEF 201. Then I also can definitely recommend the same session as Shinjan mentioned, which is DevOps with BTP, is led by Boris Tsarsky. I attended his session last year. It was fantastic. So I'm really looking forward to this one. Other than that, yeah, I want to go through my list of complaints further down the line. But yeah, these are main recommendations from me for ABAP developers, especially.
Great. Cool. Naveen, do you want to go or shall I?
Yeah, I can fill in. I'll probably offer two perspectives. One to my developer friends in terms of how they can upskill. The second to my developer manager friends so that they can take back topics and put some training plans for their developers. For the developer friends, I would say, first of all, the total sessions are so less. So do spend some time. It's not overwhelming at all. There are only 200-ish sessions. You should be able to really build your own agenda. The number of topics on ABAP, Fiori, UI5 are very limited, like 10, finish, like kind of threw me off the pace a bit, but I mean, do spend time in going through those topics. I think one way to look at it is the less the better. You have more focused conversations, so definitely take advantage of that. For the manager friends who are more taking back something to train their developers, what I would say is look at some of the things in BTP. That product area seems to be a buzzword out there. So do think about what you can give back to your developers so that they're prepared in terms of skills to tackle some of those challenges using the BTP platform, right? The other thing I am seeing a lot of interest in the space out there is robotic process automation. So do skim through some of those sessions. It's good for the IT managers because they can go back to their business counterparts and say, hey, we learned a new thing here, which could help you guys to save money, ROI, blah, 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 right? So those would be my themes in general. Yeah, over to you, Ethan.
Great. So yeah, I was also, I guess impressed is maybe the wrong word, with how few sort of core technology sessions there were. I think that's how it's been for the last couple of years, to be honest. It's sort of disappointing to me that it's, I mean, TechEd has a big marketing aspect to it, right? And so it's going to be about pushing the new technologies that SAP is trying to get people into and interested in, and that's good. But I think a lot of what the people who are going to TechEd, the developer types who are going to TechEd, are looking for is, how can I really do my job better? And so what can I learn from other people who are doing the same thing? And in that respect, like, yeah, ABAP, Fiori, general sort of Cloud Foundry, how to run the Fiori Launchpad or the Launchpad service on BTP, like those sort of core extension processes are really, I think, what people will be interested in. And there's not a ton of that. So go to the sessions that there are for sure. There are a few that look pretty good. And keep in mind also that the BTP sessions will often give you a preview of what's coming for the on-premise stuff. So like if you go to the BTP ABAP environment session to find out what's going on there, like that's stuff that's going to come to the S4 platform in a year or so, most likely. So it'll tell you what to get ready for. In terms of sessions that I'm excited about, there are a couple of different topics. So I'm really interested in app development, and there are a few things there. There are a couple of sessions on AppGyver and how it's integrated into BTP and Business Application Studio now that I really want to see. AppGyver is pretty awesome, and I think it brings some really interesting app delivery capabilities to BTP. And there are a couple of sessions on Kyma and Kubernetes-based extensions, which are something that was sort of started with Hybris. It did start with Hybris, actually. Kyma was a project from them. But I like when SAP brings in industry standard technology approaches and helps us use them. So I really like UI5 web components and that approach to modernizing the UI5 framework. And I really like Kyma and its focus on being a standard Kubernetes runtime and building extensions in that way, rather than one of the more proprietary, I guess I would say, SAP runtimes like the ABAP runtime. I find the Kubernetes Kyma one more interesting. And so if people are interested in that kind of thing, those sessions look really good. Lastly, and even more meta along those lines, is the session around learning about open source at SAP with Sebastian Wolf. I think that this session has been presented in a couple of different formats over a few different years, but if you haven't seen how SAP approaches open source and what their latest approach is, or if you have seen it before but want to see how things are changing, I would definitely look at that. The Fiori tools have been just released as open source. So the Fiori UX tools, the plugin that is used in Business Application Studio and Visual Studio Code for delivering Fiori applications and UI5 applications, has just gone open source. And it's a fantastic step that is being taken. And I think more and more SAP projects are going that direction. So yeah, that's what I'm interested in. Anything we missed? We're very dev focused. Are there any good business sections at TechEd? Maybe we need to wait for Sapphire.
It's not Sapphire. Yeah, that's the whole point of TechEd, and I think it should be development focused. Yeah. Obviously, development is not the only technology there, but it is a huge piece of SAP, the whole SAP ecosystem, and most active and vocal one, I would say.
Yeah, I think there are a couple of interesting sessions focused on user experience. So there is a track in the integrated suite, integrated intelligence suite. I'm sorry, the IIS around enabling a smooth.
That's what IIS is.
Yeah, that's what it stands for. I can't believe you didn't know that, Yelena.
Like information systems. I don't know. There's so many.
Around enabling a smooth user experience, and there are a couple of different sessions there that are pretty varied, but in general, like I think it's great to go and see how SAP and how other people in the enterprise are working to deliver good user experience. There's a variety of ways, and it's always nice to see what's going on there.
That actually brings me to one of those memories, because I think 3 or 4 years ago, one of the best sessions that I visited in SAP TechEd was a workshop where they did a design thinking to actually educate everyone how a design thinking happens. So I think it was Michael Falk or someone, and there was a lot of good conversation. I think that was oversubscribed workshop. Everybody wanted to come to design thinking, learn about it. I think, yeah, a few of those sessions might be missing, but yeah, it'll be a good thing to see those sessions probably in next decade or something like that.
Great. So let's do a little fun thing at the end and talk a little bit about what we are speculating will happen. And so let's go around and each talk about one or two things that we hope or maybe project that SAP will announce. What do we think? Yelena, do you want to kick us off this time?
Yeah, I have still some hopes for developer keynote. I'm very interested seeing what those really great people who are in charge of it will do. Last year, I felt it was maybe slightly a flop from my point of view, and it's been kind of a trend with SAP TechEds. Unfortunately, we were joking the years before when I think SAP ran with tagline like "All developers welcome," and ABAPers said "Except for ABAPers." Because ABAP content has been steadily disappearing from SAP TechEds, which I think it's somewhat understandable, but I feel it doesn't, it's not beneficial to anyone to kind of sideline ABAPers completely. We still have people who are struggling to adopt object-oriented programming, etc., who are really struggling to upskill. So simply kind of discarding them and skipping them, excluding them from those events, I think it's a big mistake. And last year, I felt that slightly what might have happened within that developer keynote, because it was very exciting, but it was all mostly like cutting edge stuff. There wasn't really any part of not even traditional ABAP development, but something that traditional ABAP developers would really relate to. And I know some people might fervently disagree with that, and I know many who would also agree, which I think really is a core issue here. But this year, I know that there is a new developer, SAP developer advocate. I hope I'm not butchering her name. It's Mamiki Kane. So she is actually ABAP developer. So I'm really looking forward to seeing her and her work in this year's keynote. I hope that this keynote is inclusive of ABAPers more than the previous year. On other side of things from the main keynote, I totally expect SAP to announce together like Microsoft and former Facebook did before. They announced some kind of metaverse. And I totally expect SAP to do something similar. I think it's just following the trend. Would be pretty disappointing if they didn't at least acknowledge some plans to do something like that, or kind of piggyback on Microsoft and Facebook work.
The SAP virtual reality headset.
Yeah,
will be coming out.
Yep. Purchase order approval in metaverse. So yeah.
Oh, I love it. Very good. Virtually inspect the delivery.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. Excellent. All right. Which way am I going to go? Naveen, do you want to give us a prognostication?
I'll probably dovetail on that, right? Like, I mean, today where we stand based on COVID and how the world has changed totally, I would expect some sort of a next generation augmented reality or IoT, digital twin, whatever that is, right? Like something that SAP could come up and say, hey, your supply chain is going to drastically change. You no longer have to jump into the truck, inspect it with your headlight on. All of this is going to be robots flying around, blah, blah, blah. I think there's an opportunity to transform the space, right? Totally.
Yeah.
And historically, most of the time we get like a lab preview in TechEd, things which are evolving, things which are in flight. So I would love to hear something which is going to change the supply chain forever. I think there's a lot of that opportunity right now. The other thing I always look forward at TechEd is what is the buzzword, right? Like years ago, it was Fiori. And then I think there was a tool called Build where they're pushing heavily for Build. And then Intelligent Enterprise, Leonardo, things like that. Yep. I'm just curious, as a SAP ecosystem member, what is the buzzword they're going to introduce this time? And I hope the buzzword lives for a long time.
Unlikely.
Yeah, I bet it will be intelligent enterprise again with
Could be.
metaverse this time.
Yeah.
I mean, totally tangential, but I think it was probably Sapphire, 2018. We went and they were like X data and O data. And
Oh
every
yeah,
technical
Yeah.
person that attended
Yeah.
that Sapphire, they're like, are they talking about the OData protocol? And I'm like, no.
exactly.
It's like, no, Bill does not know what
Operational data.
OData is.
This was so much
Everyone was super confused. Yep.
Yeah.
I probably had coming back from that Sapphire until the next 2-3 months. When I was talking to some client, they're always asking me, "Can you demystify X data and O data?" I'm like, "That's simple." Anyways, that's total tangential.
And funny thing is that in HANA there is XO data. So
There you go. Another
to add to
acronym.
It's HANA's just bringing the streams together. It's
Yes. And funny thing, Naveen, you mentioned about robots inspecting sites. I was just watching this video the other day, and not SAP related, where they are actually using those Boston Dynamics dogs to inspect different power plants, and so that nobody really has to be there. They are inspecting the hydropower stations in somewhere in the UK. So yeah, I'm pretty sure SAP also will take note of that and
be a good
on those
keynote
lines.
demo.
Yeah,
It
we'll see.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Yeah, great. One thing I'll say one thing I'm kind of looking forward to is actually the session on learning, because SAP has been developing a new learning platform that's sort of outside of the Learning Hub, and is a much more sort of modern platform. And so right now, like, that platform has like one sort of demo learning track on it. But I'm hopeful that like there are new announcements there. It sounds like that's what part of that session is about. And so hopefully it'll expand more, and there'll be more developer learning there that integrates like OpenSAP and content that used to only be available on Learning Hub, and is a great place to send developers to learn new technologies. So there's currently like developers.sap.com, there's OpenSAP, there's Learning Hub, which you have to pay for, and it has a lot of really detailed content. And then there's like help.sap.com and all these different places you go to find learning content. And I know that the learning team has been doing a lot of work to pull that together, and so looking forward to what comes out.
All
right.
Just on the same vein, right? Like learning content and people. If you look at TechEd historically, they're organized in 4 locations, and the same speakers were not there in all the 4 locations. Like product owners would usually be at Europe or US, but India and APJ, there's somebody else representing. And in a way, virtual is good because you get to interact with the actual product owners or the people behind pulling the trigger on this technology. So that's a good thing. Hopefully, we get to a point where we can meet them again in person and bring some pain points from customers and share some ideas. So that's a hope. We'll see.
Absolutely. I think that's a good place to leave off. So thank you everybody for joining. And we will be back for a wrap up of TechEd with the Mindset Nebula team. And yeah, so thanks a lot. Have a great TechEd.
Thank you.
Enjoy.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.